This is sample 6. There are actually 3 parts to it, and these are the patterns that are in your syllabus when you bought your packet that were folded up in the back parts. They don't fit into the binder pages. So cut them out with a slight margin all the way around the outside edge. As you make changes, sometimes you'll need that extra margin space out here with the change. So we're going to help you out by not cutting it off first, because if you cut it off, then you have to go tape it back on. So we can avoid that by leaving it on there in the first place. So the first assignment with this circumference is to add to the hip. So find the skirt front piece, trim it around the outside edge. You cut along the seam line from the hem to the waist. So here's the hem, and the waist is up this point right here. And the seam line is the dotted line. So you'll cut that seam line, seam allowance right off. This method of alterations is rightly called the seam method. And it says we're going to hinge at the waist. So anytime you see the word hinge, it means put a piece of tape. This is just a good old piece of cellophane tape, and where it says hinge, stick a piece of tape. It said hinge at the waist, so I just put that piece of tape right over the waist area and cut that back to the waist. And then hinge at the waist means you come in from the cut line towards that point, and you cut to but not through. So this piece of paper with the tape there, that's why the tape's there, it just adds a little more security to it, is just hinging, just flapping there like that. That's what that means. Now you're going to tape some filler paper, which is just a piece of colored paper, to the skirt right there. So let's make it go from there to there. And you're taping the actual skirt piece, not the seam allowance piece. And tape that down a couple of places. Don't tape the seam allowance down. We swing this out because we needed to add, for whatever reason, this person needs 3/8 of an inch extra at the hip. If you put it at the skirt front, you would add 3/8 on the skirt back also. You always do the alteration to match the front and the back. And I don't have a pencil. Wait a minute. I got one. Okay, so if you have this handy dandy little ruler, it's really nice because each of these marks is 1/8 of an inch. So starting at the hip, I needed to add 3/8 of an inch. So first of all, I'm just going to mark 3/8 of an inch out here, and then I'll mark, I'm just going to come down this side, do it the easy way. So line up 3/8 from the hip down to the bottom of the skirt. So that is my 3/8 of an inch I need. I didn't need any at the hip up here. So now I can swing this back in, but to get it to curve nicely along the edge here, I need to give it a few more places to hinge. I'm just going to cut this in. Actually, I should have a piece of tape there, but it's okay. And the #1 rule when you're doing pattern alterations is everything has to be flat. So I don't want to pull on this and make these gapioses or pull that up and make something have any bumps or bubbles. So this has to come down flat, flat, flat. So by the time it hits right there, I'm at my 3/8 mark. So this is totally flat. So I can go ahead and secure that with the tape. And then put a really good hinge right here at the waist. And from there all the way down to the bottom. Tape through that gap right there. Okay, tape to the filler paper. Redraw my hem across the gap. So connect those lines back again. And trim this off. I can go ahead and trim it at the cut line. Cut that off like that. And I always write, you'll want to write whatever changes that you made on this pattern. So you would add 3/8 inch at hip, and then total addition is 4 times that. Because if I added 3/8 of an inch over here on the right hip, when I cut this pattern out, it will automatically add 3/8 of an inch to the left hip, and whatever I did to the front, I have to do to the back. So I have 4. So 4 times 3/8 is 12/8. If you're good at fractions, that reduces down to 1 1/2 inches. So total addition is 1 1/2 inches. That's it.